Hi there, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters, and today we're going to talk about a basic primer for Americans on the Premier League. I am not in any way, shape, or form an expert on soccer, or as they insist on calling it over in Europe, football. Yes, I know it's not really football, but they insist on calling it this, so we'll humor them today. Uh, the uh, Soccer is a big thing over there. It's become a bigger thing here in the United States. Not sure the trend may be dying down some. It seems that kids just ain't joining. They're doing stupid things like academies that are killing the sport. But that's another day's topic. Let's talk about you've decided that you want to watch the highest level soccer in the world, right? And that leaves you the European leagues. So you're going to either be watching uh, La Liga, Serie A, you're going to be watching the Italian league, the French league, the Spanish league, or the German league, right? Or you're going to watch the English Welsh league, which is the Premier League. Of these, I suggest the Premier League in England and Wales because A, they speak English, okay, naturally there, and they don't necessarily have one team that wins all the time. If you watch the German league, you're going to watch the Bundesliga, which is the German league. You're going to see Bayern Munich, is going to win pretty much every year. You watch the Spanish league, La Liga, you're going to see, two teams, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid, probably top teams you're going to see every time. So, this seems to be a pattern in most European leagues. There's one, maybe two teams that are really good, and the rest of them just aren't there, right? Now, I'm sure that's a huge overgeneralization, and somebody can argue that with me till the cows come home. But generally, I don't see that as much in the Premier League. When I decided I was going to pick a European league to watch, I kind of looked around, and you saw all these leagues with all these guys rolling around in the ground. And what kind of sold me on the Premier League is the guy took a flop. It was a pretty clear flop, and the ref laughed at him. I mean, it wasn't even. I mean, he just laughed at him, right? Didn't call him for a penalty or anything. He probably should have, but didn't call him for a penalty. He just laughed at him and basically said, "Get up," and just kept on playing. And that impressed me and got me watching. Now, I have noted over time since watching it, yeah, they still take dives there, and it's just amazingly bad how, when a stiff breeze blows past them, soccer players fall over like they've been shot. But it's one of the huge flaws of the sport, but it is part of the sport, I guess. Um, anyway, so I get decide the Premier League, and I suggest you the Premier League too. Now, what you have to understand is there's about 5 or 6 teams in the Premier League that are top level teams. Manchester City, Manchester United, uh, Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspurs, Arsenal, and it probably Leicester. I don't know, probably one or two more. If you root for one of these teams, you're a poser. Particularly if you root for the Manchesters, because everybody in the United States, for some reason, got hooked on Manchester United. You're a poser if you root for Manchester United. Just the same way if you live in Minneapolis or Duluth or someplace, and you decide that you're going to root for the Yankees or the Cowboys just because they're the best team, right? Uh, you know, no, don't do it that way. Pick a real team and follow that team. Now, here's what I suggest doing, and this is what I did last year. Every year, 3 teams rotate off the bottom of the league to a minor league, a lower league, and 3 teams from that minor league rotate up into the Premier League. This is one of the unique things they do in European leagues that they call it promotion relegation. If you're the worst 2 or 3 teams, you go down to the lower level league. If you're the best 2 or 3 teams, you go up to the next highest league. this is a really good thing, and I kind of wish we had it in U.S. sports. We'd have this idiocy where teams purposely try to lose so they can get high draft picks. That would go away if we actually had promotion relegation. Again, topic for another day, and something that will never happen in the United States. So, what you do is, in the Premier League, let's see, last year 3 teams rolled off the bottom, right? The 3 teams that were the worst in the Premier League last year ended up going down to what's called the Champions League. I think there's a fancier name for it, but you're talking about the Champions League. And the 3 teams that went out were Swansea, Stoke City, and West Bromwich Albion, right? You'll find this Albion title on a lot of British teams. I think just an old term that meant white. I'm not sure if it meant the cliffs or the people or what, but it seems to be a basic descriptor for Brits. So those teams are out. So you're not going to root for those teams, right? And what I did last year is I chose one of the teams that came up. And I chose, if you can see it here, Brighton and Hove Albion, the Seagulls, right? I chose to start rooting for them. And it was fun watching. When you choose one of these teams that has been promoted and is fighting their way through, you get to see more of what's going on in the league. You get to see, serious games against mid-level teams. You get to see real fights going on about promotion relegation. The top level teams cement themselves in, or at least did last year, cemented themselves in really early. It was going to be Manchester City on the top, no matter what. It was going to be Manchester United, number 2, and then there was some fighting to be who 3 and 4. The top 4 are important because while there is no playoff to see who the champion of the league is, they just get it by, who ends up at the top. There is a championship in Europe where if you're champion of your league, or in top 4 teams out of the Premier League in England, go off to this championship tournament the next year. And same thing, other leagues provide 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 teams too. So there's a real fight to get to be one of the top 4, and then there's a bunch of teams in the middle that are just kind of protecting themselves so they don't get in the relegation zone, and there are teams down at the bottom that are fighting like mad to keep from getting relegated, right? It does make for an interesting play, and watching the teams that have just come in makes it a lot more interesting. I've already got Brighton and Hove Albion, and I will continue to watch the Premier League, which includes buying NBC Gold for $50 for an entire year, which gets you a whole bunch of matches, a whole bunch of games, not any complaints there, and subscribing to, you can get it on cable, but I've got it through internet cable basically, and I can watch like FS1 when it shows the Premier League games. So you're going to need a little bit of that to watch, but choose a team. My suggestion is you choose one of these 3 teams. These are the 3 teams that are promoted this year, right? Okay, first of all, there is Wolverhampton Wanderers, right? This team, and I should have the logo up by now, but this team has the coolest logo that I may have seen in the Premier League. Yeah, there are logos that have been around forever and all sorts of stuff. Very traditional, but this is just a cool logo, right? And their logos change over time here and there, now and again. But this is kind of a cool logo. If I decided to watch Premier League this year, they'd have probably got me with just the logo alone. Although, I'm pretty happy with Brighton and Hove Albion's logo. The Seagull's pretty cool. This is a team that was founded in 1877 and has been up and down various times between the top 3 tiers of British soccer. And then there's Fulham FC. You can see the logo here, 3 Fs. This is a team that was founded in 1879. It's been around for a long time. Not much else to say about them. And then there's Cardiff City FC, founded in 1899. Pretty cool logo. You can see, like the Welsh Dragon on there and the Bluebirds, which is basically what they're called. Um, pretty cool logo. You know, if you're an American kind of geek guy like me, or you've got BBC America on, you probably only know Cardiff. The only reason we know Cardiff at all is because, you know, some doctor keeps dropping in with a blue box, or at least he used to. I don't know if he's still doing it. Uh, so, don't really know Cardiff other than that. I'm sure it's a nice place with great people. But those are your three teams, and I would suggest you look at them and decide which one, and pick one of these guys and follow it through the season, because you'll see more of a different type of style of play. A lot of these teams will have to play defensive a lot of times in the year, so start to catch on and realize what defensive play is like, right? They'll play offensively against teams that they need to play to beat to stay up, and play defensively against the mid to high level teams. So you get to see a varying different type of style play, whereas opposed to, say if you were watching Manchester City last year, you just, they just went out and attacked everybody. And it worked against everybody except Wigan. We beat them in the FA Cup. But that's another story too. Look, pick one of these teams, follow them through the season. You will get a much richer experience by doing this rather than just joining the bandwagon and rooting for one of the top teams. But if you're the guy who's going to root for Boston or for the Yankees or for the Cowboys or for the Steelers just because of who they are, not because you really want to root for a team, more power to you. At least as long as you're watching some. I tend to find people who are rooting for the top teams and saying my team is Manchester United probably aren't watching as closely as somebody like me. I watched pretty closely all year long last year watching Brighton. But if you are going to watch the Premier League, just remember, for some reason, they seem to play a game every other day during December. So expect to watch a lot of soccer during December. Other than that, it'll be a fun experience. I suggest it. And, pick it up, see what it's like. You'll see higher level play than you see in the United States, with the exception of the Women's League. The National Women's Soccer League in the United States is pretty dang impressive. Yes, I realize that on a pure athletic to athletic level, would not be able to keep up with the men's leagues. That doesn't mean that the level of play isn't really pretty good. But, talked about that before, go watch the Premier League and have fun doing it. And with that, if you like this, hit like. If you like what you see around here, hit subscribe, and then hit the little bell, which is up there, I guess, so that you get notifications. Because if you don't, my understanding is YouTube isn't always showing you everything you subscribe to anymore, and that's not a good thing. If you want to contact me directly, @LammersK on Twitter, just send me a direct message. Comments below, make any comment you want. I'll be happy to try to read them all. I can't promise I will answer them all. My boss, in the job that pays, actually has first call on my, loyalty and, doing work and stuff. This is a hobby out of love. I love doing this thing, but unless one of y'all decides you want to throw a couple $1,000,000 my way, it ain't going to be my primary means of existing. So, gotta concentrate on the other thing rather than, big conversations and comments. Finally, if you got a little bit of spare money and you got a little bit of spare time, go watch some minor league sports. Y'all have a good week now.